Hey everybody, Dr. Meri Crowley here, and today I have in the studio with me Juan Savin. Today is 9/9, and in a couple of days it's going to be 9/11. And so there's going to be, I believe in the next week or two, there's going to be some things I think are going to happen. But today's program is sponsored by MyPillow. Let's roll that commercial, please.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. Six-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
If you want to get the MyPillow, just go to MyPillow.com, put in my promo code Meri, Meri, right in the middle of America, or click on the link below. Mike Lindell has been a true patriot, and we want to honor him as much as we can and not buy from the big box stores and buy from MyPillow. So anyway, hey Juan, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Well, I'm up in Idaho. I'm getting ready to do a meeting up here. I just saw Scott McKay here a couple of days ago. He was in Caldwell. Well, I'm going to be speaking at an event in Caldwell Christian Church, and he was in Caldwell because they've launched a tactical civics group up in Idaho, and I think there's 8,000 people across the country now, so they're taking it by storm. So it was good to see my friend Scott McKay here, and so going back to LA in a couple of days. But today being 9/9/1, in a couple of days 9/11. What do you feel? I think today's a significant day. What do you know about the numbers 9 and today being double 9?
Well, 9 is the devil's favorite number. You should know, because 9 always returns to itself. So 9 times 9 is 81. 8 and 1 is 9. You go through all the multiples; it's the same thing. And but I never get too caught up in the numbers. The reality is that for every negative side, there's a God side. 40 days and 40 nights. 40 days Christ fasted. There's certain numbers that do have significance. God himself is the one that has ordained that. So I don't get too wound up on it. I don't run my life by the numbers like that. I'm aware of them as they turn up, but I don't, try to plan and anticipate and work around to have things happen on a certain day.
Well, the only reason I brought it up,
Yeah.
it's 9 months to have a baby. There's 9 gifts of the Spirit, 9 fruit of the Spirit. And so to me, I look at the 9 being more of a God number, but it's all how you look at it, as you said. But in 2 days, it'll be 9/11. And of course, it was 24 years ago that 9/11 happened. And of course, we know that was a plan. And so there's a lot going on right now. There was just a big bombing.
Well, let me just hold you right there for a second. My friend Kurt Weldon, former congressman, he's doing an event up there, and the Redacted TV people are covering that. Quite a few people are going to be at that event, including Speaker of the House Ron Johnson. I know that there's a request in that the president add a little comment in there, and
Where is this going to be at, Juan?
what his role right there in Washington, D.C. What's interesting about Kirk, for congressman for 20 years, he was a fire chief. And so with the events of 9/11, he's been leading the charge that there be a presidential commission to look at 9/11. And I've added that it's more than that. It needs to be a presidential commission to look at 9/11 and the use of other energy weapons against the American people out in Maui, over in the Palisades, Paradise Fires, and 100 other events that we know for a fact were done by weapons. These are military grade weapons. They're not stuff that civilians can get, and it's not appropriate or productive to have, say, the FBI or any other three-letter agency look at these weapons, because they are highly classified. The only person that's going to have authority to get to them isn't going to be a congressional committee. It's going to be a presidential, special commission with certain authorities. It's going to have to include military people to go in and look at the military weapons, where were they at, who had authority to use them, and how they were used. By the way, no, it's not China, it's not Russia. So how come our weapons are being used against our own people on U.S. soil? And that's going to require a presidential commission, 9/11 included.
Well, Juan, I went down there and I saw Lewis Herms about a month ago, and we were down in the Palisades and Pacific Palisades. I hadn't been down there since the fires, of course, started at the beginning of the year. And it was like looking at it was devastated, unbelievably devastated. And Lewis Herms and a small team were down there because they know they were trying to do a land grab, and was doing some things with an attorney friend and other people so it was great to see Lewis Herms.
Well, let me just fill that out. I was the one that asked Lewis to jump in there and do that. What the deal is, unless you positively post and assert a claim to your land with the county auditor, it can be assumed to be abandoned. And that's much of the mischief going on in the state. So you have to add an addendum to your property that after so many days after it's been wiped out like this, that you're not abandoning your property, and they can't come in and just seize it. And it's a simple procedure. It takes a few minutes, but you have to do it. And a lot of people are being intimidated. We're coming also on the building permits. Trump is looking at another executive order on housing. Those people with properties there are getting pressured huge by companies that ultimately are owned by China to sell out their properties cheap, as though they're not going to get permits and rebuild and the money and everything else. Trump's coming in with money for the rebuilding for many of the houses, low cost loans. So this is far from.
Yeah, well, I remember when Trump first came in there and did a press conference with Karen Bass and a number of them, and he was basically saying, we want to get these permits. We're going to expedite these permits. And it's still like, how many months later? And there's really very, very few building being done right there right now. But we need to continue to pray for the people in the Palisades and Malibu. I know Mel Gibson, I had his place burned down in Malibu, and a lot of people did. So it's horrific. I've been to Malibu many times. I've done many events in that area, and it just was really bad. So in the meantime, Juan, as we're coming through now into this time in September, I've heard you on Nino's show and different ones. And what do you expect this month? I mean, we're going to start to see some shaking going on. What do you continue to see? I know that there's a lot of sleepers in the country. I know in the past you've said that there's going to be some cities that they're going to try to target. I know that I've been sensing that there's going to be some type of shakeup that's getting ready to come down, that people need to prepare emotionally and spiritually, get prepared. But I do believe it's going to be not a long time. It's going to take almost like a really bad turbulence. What is your feeling on what's getting ready to happen, Juan? And people have been saying, you've been talking about this, nothing's been happening. But, what's your saying on that, Juan?
Well, I'm not going on feelings, details of what's going on right now.
Your audio is kind of breaking up on me.
People, God may very knowing where things are going. For example, Team 11, and the president has made clear he's coming for the state of Colorado. He said, let her go, made her case about her situation. I expect action very shortly on Tina Peters' situation. The cup is full. They have pushed hard not to allow her to be free, and have ignored all of the federal side of this. And so Trump has played pretty methodical game up to this point in time, allowing Justice Department to do certain things and try to get her released in a very straightforward way. And now that we have reached a certain point, Trump will step over that and exercise greater power to have her free from the grip of the state of Colorado and let her life be burned out in Colorado jail.
Well, I know my friend Pastor Dave Bryan just went and visited her a couple weeks ago. He's actually going to be at my event coming up on 11/1 in San Francisco. And Pastor Dave went and saw her and said she seemed in pretty good spirits. So we've all been praying for Tina Peters that she would be released. And I know President Trump has been putting it out there that they need to release her. And so we need to continue to pray for Tina Peters and what's happening with her, because I know it's not a good situation with her, but I do believe she's going to be released hopefully very soon, because Pastor Dave was just,
You better believe it.
yeah,
Very soon.
yeah, very
Well,
soon.
let me go back to where you were saying, where are the events in this country going? It's actually disturbing, especially amongst the Patriot community, believers. So much has happened since President Trump came back into office, and yet we still hear almost to me, very disturbing mantra, like they aren't seeing anything happening, nothing's happening soon enough, it's not what they expected. Any number of things where they think Trump is slow, or for example, there's protests scheduled there in Washington, D.C. at the White House because the people who were pardoned by Trump, they didn't get their sentences, their convictions overturned. So they still have to put, for example, on the job application that they're a felon, but they've been pardoned or something, as though they're not getting, it didn't get a fair shake. And that Trump should even be moved from office because he's not there legitimately on various things, because he didn't, sign the Insurrection Act and stuff back in 9/11. It's a bunch of silliness. And there's a normalcy bias. All the things that have been going wrong with America, they don't see enough things switch, so it's not going wrong fast enough. So it's still going wrong. So America's going down the tubes, and we're all toast. It's going to be all over. And this is just another example here with 9/11 now that we're not going to save the country. That kind of naysaying, scoffers, is how you'd be referred to from a scriptural standpoint, is very unproductive, and it's false. The reality is, you have this great ship of state. It's huge, and the cure can't be worse than the disease. We don't want to be in a situation where we set up some kind of executive action that when Trump's not there, somebody else comes in and they just go in a willy-nilly way because Trump did. Trump's work has been very methodical. The team advising him have been working in a very methodical manner to remove the funding for a lot of these programs that are off-key, USAID being the primary one, and many others. The National Public Radio, which was really just a propaganda site for the communists. Many, many other things, going into universities and cutting out the funding for these programs that are really anti-American and down through the schools. There's a lot more to be done. We just, think about it. We're literally less than 9 months into this administration. Things that have been going wrong in this country for over 120, 140, 50 years are only just now getting addressed. The biggest one that most people have no knowledge of, they're just not understanding or paying attention. Trump is taking on the greatest monster of all, which is the Federal Reserve. It's unconstitutional. It's criminal in its actions. Criminal. Trump himself said criminal again this last weekend. Okay? Last week and a half ago, I broke to the world something that nobody else anywhere has ever spoken publicly about that I'm aware of, because they didn't know. Remember when they showed those pallets of cash on the plane on the tarmac in Tehran? Obama money going to the people in the mullahs in Iran. Remember that?
Yeah, when Obama had that sent over.
Yeah. By the way, hijacked the planes they shipped that money on, and it wasn't just to Tehran; it was to other places.
Kind of breaking up on me, Juan. You were breaking up on me. We didn't hear that last sentence or two. So could you re-articulate? So you broke something to the world about the pallets of cash that were given to Tehran. So could you repeat what you had said after that?
That was
Juan?
nothing. That was a fraction of the money that was printed. The Federal Reserve printed up $4 billion or $400 billion in cash. Okay. And then they shipped 340 billion of that in 2 separate ships headed for China.
Mm.
That was back at the tail end of the Obama administration, 2015. What was the excuse for sending $340 billion in cash, $100 or 100 millions a pallet, 100 million a pallet, 2 1,700 pallet shipments to China? What was Obama doing with that? On what basis would he send that? That was going to go help cover the costs of stealing the election in 2016.
Mm.
Those pallets, 2 separate shiploads, were loaded up in Baltimore Harbor, but they didn't want the Baltimore shipyard employees to be aware of it, so they were sent to the lunchroom or sent home. Special longshoremen were brought down at the direction of Chucky Schumer, brought down from the New York mobs, and did the loading of those pallets at the Baltimore shipyard. Those ships were loaded up with 3,400 pallets and headed for China. Only by certain intervention, both ships were intercepted along the way. That was money that was supposed to go to China. That was printed under very, very questionable circumstances. I think it's going to turn out to be totally criminal. I think that's part of the stuff that'll come out with the Obama stuff over time. And we'll have a conversation, national conversation, because at the end of the day, that wasn't even the whole of it. They had been printing hundreds of billions of dollars, by our best estimate, something around 17,000 pallets of 100 billion cities across the world in preparation to collapse the dollar once Hillary. Those pallets are sitting there still waiting right now to be released, allowed to be open. And the reason pallets of cash is different than digital cash, in the digital banking system, we can shut down a bank, we can shut down banks, we can do it in seconds. But the cash, paper money, when it's released on the streets, remember the US dollar is used as an international currency. So you flood it out on the streets all over the world, and suddenly there's just cash everywhere. It breaks the confidence in the overall currency. The stuff that's in the banks and the digital and all that, by the paper itself. We know that from how we took down the Soviet Union with paper currency. Their paper currency wasn't counterfeit. The dollars out there across the world are not counterfeit. They salted the world with pallets, 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 pallets of cash in preparation to collapse the dollar. And by the way, other currencies, there's pallets of pounds, there's pallets of yen, there's pallets of other currencies, Deutschmark, because there's a globalist conspiracy that had in mind that had Hillary won, we'd have already collapsed the currencies of the world. Follow on to 2007 and 8 with what happened at the end of the Bush administration. It collapsed the currency, the banking system. If they hadn't acted within 24 hours, the world banking system as we know it would have collapsed. Well, it was a prelude to allow the excuse to do a bunch of this mischief. We are up against a foe that's global in nature, that has in mind to control the whole world. And there's a lot of naive people that think that it's only an attack on America. Even 9/11, it's only an attack on America. It wasn't an attack on America. It was an attack on the world by hijacking America first. Trump is working to overturn that, to undermine it, to flip it around, and the people around him. And a lot of the actions that you may question, if you see this down the road when you do it, you'll probably understand that there was a much bigger game, including things like COVID and other things. So I'd be a little slower to judgment and a lot faster to prayer. This is very precarious moment that we're in, and this is far from it.
Well, and so Juan, you said the ships that were being sent over to China that were intercepted, where is that cash now? Those pallets of cash?
I'll hold that back. We know exactly what's
Okay.
not the U.S. It's other people's control. It's still dangerous.
Sure. Well, and Juan, see, first of all, it's we the people, we need to continue to pray for President Trump. My audience is, many of them are believers, the Christians, that we do pray. We are praying. In fact, we're getting ready, as I mentioned, to do this event on 11/1 in San Francisco at the Scottish Rites Masonic Lodge. And I'm not going to go into much detail about that, but we've got a number of people that are pretty well-known people that are leaders in movements that are doing events in Washington, D.C. with 500,000 people showing up on certain, like on October 13th last year, there was 500,000 people. I was there with Lou Engle and Pastor Cheon and Chuck Pierce and some of these ones. We are going to San Francisco, and I've invited you on because we are going to pray the seventh open the heavens, that God is going to open the heavens over San Francisco, the city of St. Francis. The title of it would be Open the Heavens, Keys to the Golden Gate. There's something about the Golden Gate Bridge, and many times, Juan, as you know, in movies, these deep state players will often, the satanic people will have to tell you what they're doing before they do it, because then I guess the blood's not in their hand. It's in some type of code they have. I don't know. You probably know better than me. But oftentimes in movies, Juan, we've seen the Golden Gate bridge being exploded or something coming down. And I know that Nino has had that Trader Girl Q on that's talking about a false flag, a Black Swan event happening at the Golden Bridge. Golden Gate. I mean, so we are going to see and praying. We've set up a 24-hour prayer network from 9/1 to 11/1, where we have people praying round the clock, you know, for God to move in America and around the world, and to see these demonic kingdoms falling, and that God would restore and bring the kingdoms of this world will now become the kingdoms of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So believe me, when you're talking to me, I'm not one of those people that is a naysayer against Trump and what he's doing. But we know that there's a higher power that's operating behind the scenes and even leading and directing President Trump and his team. So what would you say about the Golden Gate and about San Francisco, Juan, what you know about?
Well, let me dive in real quick.
Sure.
The Golden Gate is something in astrology that has to do with certain windows opening up, certain portals, and things like that. And so there's a belief that in certain windows you have but great. For example, all the NASA rocket launches are aligned with certain celestial alignments. You think it's got to take off by such and some time because of angle of the Earth and sunrise and all sorts of other things. No, they're doing that because it's occult rituals. The most occultic branch of government, the whole U.S. government's NASA, and with all the names of the launches, what's going on, shoot, even Elon's operations. He calls his ships the Dragon ships, and the Dragon ship goes up and mates with ice. Okay, goes back to the Osiris Horus symbology, and so we have lots of people within our government. You know, Washington D.C., the whole city is built around occult symbology, satanic symbology, the angles, the streets, the buildings, the Osiris Tower at the very center, the phalanx symbol of the Washington Monument. Okay, so having a bridge which has symbolic meaning and color and everything else is a big part of it. It's a beautiful network, okay? But you know, there's people with ultimately more than one meaning behind pulling the strings behind the scenes. Just because it has a cult meaning, just like the Statue of Liberty or something like that, do we stand by and let them, you know, use it for their occultic purposes? No, we come against it, pray against it, and what they intend to do doesn't always get pulled off. If they'd had their way, there'd already been a nuclear bomb gone off in Seattle in 2019, and it got stopped. Think of how your life would have changed. What if Hillary had gotten in through the election? And then the Obama people behind Obama, and controlling her the whole time. They had her set up. She was guilty. They got it all to go after her for taking an $18 million, accepting an $18 million bribe. Okay.
And that was put in, and that was put in Patrick Byrne's book that he talked about in Danger Close.
Right. And there was other things on top of that. They'd had all this cash over in China to flip elections everywhere. We have the guys in physical custody here in the United States, protective custody, who flipped the elections in 71 countries plus the United States. We have a lot of work ahead of us to get that unraveled. And then you got a few naysayers here in the country that are rabble rousers that are going after the president because he's not doing it fast enough, that he should have been able to just do this or that or something else. He's working within certain executive authorities and powers. There's a number of people that are still under charges related to January 6th, okay? Because the pardon couldn't cover them. Other specifics were in there. You don't think they were considered? That's why we have American Rights Alliance and Trennis working hard on some of those cases. You had a bunch of know-it-alls who didn't know shit that have been fighting us all the way along for their own personal aggrandizement. People on the inside, as though they knew better what was going on, but then they take the money and do other stuff that's not actually going to help the J6 victims. And attorneys are spending it in bizarre, stupid ways. It's not actually helping them. Uh,
Mhm.
these are thieves, they're liars. They're right there in the midst of us. Okay. Those that don't come, if a shepherd comes in, he doesn't come in through the shepherd's door, then he's a thief and a liar. You got a bunch of people climbing over the walls, coming and doing stuff sideways that are not doing it for the best interest of the American people, the patriots, and people around the world. So we address it, but God's not mocked. He sees all of them, and the tide is turning. Day by
Yes.
day, we're getting a better handle on where things are going in the country.
Well, you're breaking up a little on me, Juan, but the tide is turning. And that's why, there's been statements that it might look like a near-death experience, even when General Washington, just to recap that, in 1777 at Valley Forge, when the angel appeared to him and said, 3 perils were going to come upon America, the third would be the worst, but that the Union would prevail. And so the enemy will always try to divide. That's always his MO. And so that's why the people have to pray, and we have to stand united. And that's why we, the people, we, the patriots, we, the Christians, we have to stand united. And so we have to stay praying. It's not President Trump that's going to deliver the country. It's going to be God. It's going to be God Almighty. And so, as we're coming into this season, Juan, we're coming up to the highest Jewish feast. A lot of what happened over in the Middle East, with that horrific bombing or the killings in Jerusalem. And then, of course, what happened this morning over, where was it, in Qatar, where there was an attack. What do you have to say about what's happening in the Middle East, Juan?
Well, it's hard to tell the players without a program. There's so many different angles going on there, but ultimately, you've actually got about a dozen primary terrorist groups around the world, and they're being used for subplots by the 3 major powers: China, Russia, and the U.S. And you can't really understand a lot of these actions without understanding the rest of the context. Stuff that looks like one group is actually by another group to be a foil for something else. So I try not to get too lost in the weeds in some of that. You have to look at a much bigger picture to really understand it.
Well, I just wanted to address it because it just happened. That's why I wanted to bring it up today. But, Juan, on your scope of what's happening now and the people that are listening, I trust in God. I know that as we pray and we stay and we obey, I know that He told me that the greatest show on earth is going to happen. But it's not just going to happen. We, the people, have to be the ones that take action, even as Jesus said when he went, God ascended into heaven, and he looked at his disciples and he said, now you have to go. You have to pray. You go into the towns. We, the people, have to do it. People are looking at President Trump. He's just the commander in chief. He can only do so much. And so we, the people, have to take action. And so what would you tell the people today? That they're all waiting for something. We have to take action and move. And I personally believe there's going to be a great awakening, that many people are going to wake up, not just become patriots, but they're going to wake up to the kingdom. They're going to wake up to what God is doing. They're going to wake up to see that this planet that has 8 billion people on it, that many of them are going to come to know Jesus, that are going to come to know God. So that's what we're seeing. We're seeing this demonic regime, this Luciferian, the satanic ritual abuse, these millions of kids that have been taken around the world, that we're going to see that God is going to release these ones, like Isaiah 61. The trafficking of children has been their fuel. It's been their fire, like Molech and Baal, what they've been doing, sacrificing these children. So that's why I came out with a film in 2022 called Freedom Cry, which we've been showing at every event I've done, and we're going to be showing in San Francisco on 11/1. Because when I went over to when I went to Thailand, when I came home, Juan, God said to me, I don't want you to show what's happening in Thailand. You have to show what's happening in America. And with the thousands of kids that are missing, God is dealing with this. It's one of the first things President Trump has done. And with the borders that are being closed and with Tom Homan and a number of these, they're busting a lot of these pedophile rings. What would you say about the trafficking and what that's happening with a number of these rings being busted up, the syndicate rings?
Well, let me say it slightly differently. A lot of people, why would God allow this? Why does God allow these evils to occur in this world? What's he thinking? Well, first off, God gave the earth and everything that's in it to Adam and his seed. God gave the earth and everything that's in it, plus he gave authority for everything that creeps and crawls and moves upon the earth to Adam and his seed. That was usurped by the devil. But then, after the death and resurrection of Christ, all of that authority was restored to those of us who will receive it and to exercise those authorities. See, God is looking to us to do what he gave us the authority to do with that which he gave us, this earth and everything in it, the authority over it. And to the extent that we need assistance, we ask and invite him to assist us. Then he will act. He doesn't act autonomously outside of the permission and authority of the true owners of this planet. He's not an Indian giver. So when you say, why would God allow this? I turn it right around. Why would you allow these horrors to happen to children anywhere in the world? I went through Johannesburg the other day. What I saw there was so horrendous, so over the top about the way that children are being raised. People are living there in Johannesburg, which was a world-class city 30 years ago.
Yeah.
As advanced and beautiful, well-groomed and cared for as any city on planet Earth. Tokyo, in its best day, wouldn't even reach how clean and well organized and well cared for and maintained Johannesburg was. And right now, it is worse than the worst. Garbage dumps are better. I'm not actually kidding. The going through town, all the garbage burned on the public streets, all the garbage just sitting, children being raised around it. It's gut wrenching, and that's happening on our watch. And the people that are doing this, Ramaphosa is a criminal, just like Maduro is a criminal, and he's surrounded by a criminal cadre that has been helped to get into power and hold power under a fraud, election fraud. That's what happened. Okay, everybody knows it. The last election, by the way, that Ramaphosa won, you know what? That was a test in 2019, a year before the 2020 elections here in the U.S. They shut down all the vote counting middle of the night, and then they started it back up the next day, and suddenly went from losing to winning, just like happened in America on the Biden side. That because the people who'd been doing the vote had certain operations there in a center, by the way, which was half owned by the richest man in Serbia and John Brennan, the head of our CIA. They cooked the books, stole the election in South Africa in 2019, and Ramaphosa is still there, bleeding the country dry, stealing every last nickel that isn't nailed down for their friends. And then what they're going to do, they're going into exile all over the world. And they're getting ready to have a coup there that Iran in there to own the coup. And go into the next iteration. They're destroying Africa from South Africa. The stuff going on in the Congo, like there's not enough minerals in South Africa. It's a bunch of people out of South Africa that are going up into the Congo to get some of the cobalt and other things, using the army of South Africa to protect their operations. And hundreds of thousands of children are dying. We're going to go after South Africa, their criminal government. Trump has said, Justice Department, look at Ramaphosa. He's funding terrorism with the Taliban. They're getting ready to put a arrest warrant out for Ramaphosa, just like they did Maduro in Argentina or in Venezuela. We're going to go out. We're going to start cleaning up during this administration, a short period of time, to get a whole lot of work done. And I have zero tolerance for the people that aren't all in or are just kind of watching. Everybody needs to be all hands on deck, support the president, including the tariffs, to get the country under control and get the world headed in the right direction in a very short period of time.
Well, you know what I'm hearing right now, we're at a Gideon's time in history. Judges 6, where 7 years Israel was impoverished because the Midianites would come in. There came a point, and I believe we're at that point now, that God said it's time. And it's time, and God used a guy named Gideon that he said, I'm the least in my father's house in Manasseh. And God told him to cut down the altars of Baal and Asherah. This has to do with the children. And if we don't stand up, as you just said, for the children, you know what I mean? What we're seeing around the world, and it's really the men. If there was no demand, there'd be no supply. And America is one of the #1 countries that is doing the most sex trafficking right here in America. And so this is the thing he told me to tell the men, you're not a pimp, a pirate, or a pawn, but a prince and a king. That's who the men are. And this is what God is raising up the men again. So I speak to the men, and men like Juan, Savin, and Nino, and a number of these people that I know that are standing up, Scott McKay, who I just saw the other day, and many, many, many other men that are out there that are standing up for truth. But there's going to be many more that are rising up. And if the men just turned and said, no, you know what? We're not going to look at porn. We're not going to do this. We're going to see it changed overnight. So anyway, we're at a Gideon's army moment where God's going to use the remnant. But Juan, we're at a tipping point right now. I believe that if the people will rise up and pray, I mean, you can listen. Well, what's going to happen next? The main ones, if we, the people, just like you said, as we humble ourselves, Juan, and pray and seek his face, turn from our wicked ways, then God said, I will hear from heaven and heal your land. This is only a sovereign thing as the people of God come and repent and change our ways. Then we're going to see our land healed. And I know you know this, that one, some people might not want to hear this, you know, whatever we say, but this is the main message, is we the people, as we pray, we're going to see things change. And we've seen it in the past. Moves of God. If you look at all the awakenings, in fact, we got a book that I'm writing called The Destiny of a Nation that's going to go into every great awakening in America, starting at when the Pilgrims came here and signed the Mayflower Compact. We're at the verge of another great awakening. And so that's what I'm saying. So Juan, you're traveling around the world. You're seeing these things, as you just said. You were in the Congo. You were in South Africa. I used to have friends that were dead. They used to live in South Africa. They fled South Africa because what was happening. And, you know, it was, like you said, a land that it was an incredible land. There was so much prosperity. And now I haven't been there, but like you said, it's devastated. It looks like locusts have come in and eaten it, I'm sure. So Juan, to the people listening, what would you say? You know, I have hope. I know that if God be for us, who can be against us? But what would you tell the people that are always, you know, like, well, there's not enough done. What do we need to do? I know that there's a lot not being done, but what can you tell the people to do that they need to do to stay the course?
Well, all politics is local. And one of the problems as Christians, there's been this idea that Christians shouldn't be involved in politics. They're above it. But the reality is freedom includes managing yourself, managing your community. taking certain responsibilities and authorities. Christians are amongst the lowest percentage voters in the country. Do you know that? You go to churches and over half the church has never voted. The half that have voted vote very inconsistently. So you get the government that you work for, earn, and deserve. And if you haven't worked for it, you haven't earned good government. You've earned bad government. So if you're not participating in getting the right people into office and making sure they get to stay there, then you're part of the problem. And being passive about that, including, well, I don't, I trust the politicians to get it right on the vote stuff, and I don't know all the details, and it's so hard to understand. Well, the problem, the capturing of the vote system in America and across the world is how we've got these monsters into power and authority, spending your hard-earned tax money on the most insane, outrageous things you could possibly imagine, and essentially putting you into slavery. And these are people in many cases that, whether it's overt or covert, they serve the devil's purposes. Okay, they're there through deception, fraud, deceit. They're part of clubs. They have I got mine, too bad about you attitude. Till Christians decide that yes, I do have to be on the school board, be on the city council, be on the parks department, and take some authority within how their nation, their land, their city is governed. If they won't do that, if they won't do that, you will have insanity in child protective services, insanity in the way that laws are governed and judges get into office and hold office and the rulings they make. So how do people get involved? Get involved in some aspect of the vote. That is a very godly activity. You're in the government of God Almighty, and you don't want to have any part in it. Well, then you're not doing your job. Even heaven itself is done by ranks and orders, and you work your way up through those positions in your investment in the way that a servant runs the household, and he gains authority. Look at what God did through Joseph. When it came to saving the nation, he had to put a man in the right place with the right authorities to save the nation. And by the way, Trump, he doesn't need this. He didn't want to. He'd had a great life. He set aside personal well-being, safety, comfort, come do what he's doing right now for the whole country in the last years of his life, and set aside family time and things like that, personal time. You think he's got any time to himself? All these naysayers going after Trump. Think of how much trauma, difficulty, pain, personally, he's had to go through over the last several years. For what end? Because he has a divine call in his life, whether you understand it or not. And he redoubled that down after the assassination attempt. He understands he's here by the grace of God. When he this audience, you'll be considering your situation in the same way. Many of you are only here by the grace of God. What are you going to do with it? Part of it is getting our government back under control one way or another. What we're pushing for right now, what Trump himself is pushing for. Most important thing he will give America back during all of his time in government: an honest vote, hand count, paper ballot, counted where cast, no transporting back of a police car or fire truck, grandma's knitting basket. Small precincts, 1,500 or less, like we used to do it in the old days. No central counting centers.
Kind of broke up on me, Juan. Well, and that's true. I'm, like I said, this event in San Francisco, which
Actually
people,
elected.
You kind of cut off on me, Juan, the last couple of sentences I didn't hear. You were talking about the most important thing that President Trump will get back to the people is to have hand counted ballots the day of the election, that we will take back, the elections through getting rid of these voting machines, Dominion and Smartmatic and all of that. And so we, the people, looking back, Juan, at what happened even with the beginning of our country, with General George Washington and the people, it was the church people, the Minutemen and the Black Robe Regiment that literally started seeing their families raped and taken. And they said, we have to defend this nation. And they were willing to fight for it. And we, the people, have to be willing to fight for it. I'm getting ready to do my 7th Open the Heavens in San Francisco. It's going to be on 11/1. It's going to be from 10 to 8 in San Francisco. We are going to be doing it, and I understand everything about where we're going to be doing this at, but there's a reason. At the Scottish Rites Masonic Lodge. It's going to be free, but if you want to get your VIP, it's going to be $177 for VIP, or before October 15th. So we've invited Juan to come to that. He's been at least 5 of my Open the Heavens, but he wasn't at, the last one we did in Costa Mesa. But we've invited him to San Francisco. But let me tell you, I think it's going to be a big deal in San Francisco, the 7th Open the Heavens. First one was Mount Rushmore. Second one, Chicago. Third was Champions Church. That Juan was at that one, and the Chicago one. The 4th was San Diego. The 5th one was Nampa, Idaho, and the 6th was Costa Mesa. Now the 7th one will be in San Francisco. Juan was in person at 2 of them, but he was on Zoom on at least 3 of them. So Juan, if you can't come in person, at least you can come via Zoom. So anyway, Juan, as we close out the show today, I know you dropped off and I was telling him about my event in San Francisco on 11/1 All Saints Day. Juan, it is important that we come together, and these Open the Heavens event that you've been at. In fact, at one of them down in Florida, as we were praying for the people, there was a word that came over you by one of the ministry friends that was with me, that actually said that God was going to protect you, almost like in a Faraday cage, and you actually had something the very next week where a car almost killed you, but another car came in front of it and blocked it, almost like causing that car that would have killed you, literally it knocked it out of the way. Why do you think these events are important?
Well, and it was a gold car. It was a gold car too. So the interesting word was, it was like a Faraday cage with golden bars. And I thought that was kind of funny that it was a gold car. The being black car that was red, or a person ran a light. And there was
it was coming right for you, right, Juan?
Yeah, there was no time to really jump out of the way. I was just trying to think how I was going to jump up over the top of the Jeep, pretty tough. So, yeah.
Well, and why it's important, Juan, that we come together. I know Clay Clark, I was involved with Reawaken, and I've got my own, but why we the people, it's not just on Zoom. It's important we come together, because not only are you going to hear great people, speakers, this time we have more prophetic apostolic type speakers like Lou Engle and Cheyenne, who's actually running for governor in California too. I know Louis Herms is my friend, he's running as well. And then we've got, Pastor Dave Bryan, who was actually, he's got a church in Yuba City, but he's setting up one of the largest anti-trafficking places called the Peace of Heaven. And then Chuck Pierce out of Dallas, Texas, Glory of Zion. But these are people, Juan, that have stood up with that sometimes thousands of people coming, where people have been praying and repenting for our nation, to see God move, for our nation to be turned back to God. Juan, last several minutes, what's on your heart, to share? I know that we, the people, have to get involved. I think it's really important. A number of these churches in San Francisco are like, well, we don't want to shake up the people. We know some of the people don't believe they believe in abortion. So we don't want to take a stand against that. We don't want to take a stand against, because some of them don't like Trump. We don't want to take a stand. But let me tell you that we have to take a stand against what's truth and what's righteous.
Well, it's what I was saying a few seconds ago. This is about picking a lane, and you you can decide that you want to be your own God and what's okay and what's good and what's acceptable. Do as thou wilt. Okay, but that won't get you into heaven. There's a certain understanding that we have of how God works and what He ordains is right, true, and just. He's very clear. And so you can be your own God and make all your own decisions, or you can make your ways align with God's ways. There's only one perfection, one truth. It's God's truth. And if you've missed that mark, then you're not in alignment with God. You're going to miss out. It won't be fruitful. It won't be prosperous. It won't have life. So if you have a question on a matter, you look at what God says. Is God pro-abortion? Well, if you're pro-abortion, you think God made a mistake, my guess is God's not going to be blessing you with what you're doing because you're out of alignment with what He has said He wants. Go down the list.
And just to
There's plenty
interject,
of times
people that have had abortions, we're not condemning people because, many people have had abortions, but you know what? God forgives people. There's reasons, but in the meantime, but to believe God is about life. And go ahead, Juan.
Well, one of the great people in the Bible, David, had one of his best commanders killed because he had an affair with the commander's wife, and she got pregnant.
You cut out on me. Yeah, no, and that's
God
true.
says David's a man after my own heart, okay? But David repented. He turned from that. He had a great remorse over what he was doing. So he didn't try to cover it, get away with it, do whatever. And he had written a letter to one of his commanders who was a kind of a bad guy. When he wanted to get this guy killed, this commander who was very faithful to him, you kind of know who the ones are that'll go along with the problem and who won't. And so he had this one commander that was a little more sketchy than others. He calls him and says, look, I want you to go into battle. I want you to put this guy up at the front of the battle. And then when the battle is red hot, I want you to pull the troops back and leave him right there at the front. He's a valiant guy. He won't back down and he'll be killed. And so he wrote that in a letter to this other commander. The commander followed the orders. But you know what happened down the road? He didn't eliminate the letter, destroy after reading. That letter. He had that letter. It was a blackmail letter against Daniel or David. See, we do things all through our lives. You think, okay, it's done, it's over, it's gone. Well, the letter still exists. Somebody's going to come back later and want to get their pound of flesh out of you. So a lot of people have stuff that somebody else knows they were involved in, did, participated in. They feel bad about it now, but what you going to do? God knows these letters are out there, instances in your life that you've made huge mistakes over. It's kind of a come clean with God moment. Clear the decks. David repented. His sin was made known. The prophet came to him and said, here's what you did. You're not fooling anybody. And he repented. God accepted his repentance. And then in the remainder of his life, it's said of David, he's a man after my own heart. If you're seeking after God, his will, his way, his righteousness, we all make mistakes. Christ washed the feet of the apostles. and said, because we live in this world, we get, dirt on us. Yet he's able to wash it off and cleanse us from it. It doesn't make us, uh, you know, entirely filthy. It's just, it's a byproduct of living in a very mucked up world. Let's seek God, his righteousness, his way, his mind, his wisdom. There's so many horrors going on in the world. There's so many places we can make a difference, whether it's the way CPS is operating in your neighborhood and the parents that are struggling with a very corrupt agency oftentimes. There's times when they're absolutely crucial. They're doing critical work, but it's about 50-50 at best. And there's a lot of horrors happening to children right here in our country. You don't have to go look for a problem overseas. We need to clean up our own home. We need to stop the crooked elections here. We need to get our own policing agencies under control. The FBI, oh my gosh. If people only knew how much corruption there is in the FBI right now that we're addressing, it's unfathomable. Well, if there's no justice at the Justice Department, if there's no anti-crime, these crime investigative agencies, in fact, they're facilitating it. They're captured operations, work for political mobs. Then we got a lot of work to do here at home. Pray, ask for guidance, see where you can make a difference. A small difference is, he saves one life. It's as though they saved the whole world. That's the Jewish saying. You got people that are struggling right close to home. Let's fix things here in America, make America great again, and then we'll go out and make the world great again. We're going to get our house in order first. Praise the Lord.
Hopefully if you guys can come, let me tell you, we will be streaming it, but pray about coming. San Francisco, the city by the bay, in 1967, 100,000 hippies went to San Francisco. I believe that God is going to take that city and he's going to turn it around, and that there's going to be something, the city of St. Francis, and that he's going to make something shift in that region. So pray about coming. The links are below. Free admission, but if you want a VIP, that includes a banquet for lunch, VIP seating, a meet and greet with a lot of the speakers, as well as a VIP parking. San Francisco, that's a big deal. Go to my website, marycrowley.com, and you can get your tickets online or register for free. So Juan, we really appreciate you coming on. I've got to speak tonight at an event in Idaho. Idaho looks like a key. If it's upside, if you turn it to the side, it looks like a gun. If you turn it upside down, it looks like a whirlwind. And there's a lot of people that moved from California up to Idaho, but there's a lot of people from Idaho that are going to be going to this event. And I know that you've come up to Idaho quite a bit. And right now there's a lot of stuff in Idaho. You had the FBI thing with the Ammon Bundy and I've studied the history of what's happened here with some of these patriots who stood their ground against a lot of corruption, and they stood up. They weren't afraid of speaking up. So last couple minutes to speak, I was telling people about my event in San Francisco when you kind of got knocked off again. So Juan, can you come to San Francisco, or you might be out of the country, even if you can come on via Zoom? I know you came, literally Juan spent hours signing books. We were just up in Plymouth, up in at the Gideon's Army event, like in July, and Juan spent hours signing books and things like that. So Juan, last few minutes, what do you have to say to people about coming to San Francisco? That city, I think, is a very significant city, and if we come in there and take it back in the spirit realm through prayer and fasting and coming together in community or unity, I believe that the heavens are going to open. And what we do is we pray. We don't try to come against principalities. We just say Psalm 24, lift up your heads, O you gates, let the King of glory come in. We literally say, Jesus, come back to the Golden Gate and open the gates over the city of San Francisco and the western seaboard of the United States. And I believe a greater move of God coming than any movement known to man is erupting on the scene. So anyway, you have fond memories of San Francisco, but you know, there's a lot of things about San Francisco. You've got the Presidio. I mean, there's some
Yeah.
things in San Francisco that, you know, it's kind of a showdown in San Francisco. I believe what's getting ready to
Well,
happen.
again, I look at Johannesburg and I look at San Francisco. I remember San Francisco in the late 60s, early 70s, and it was a beautiful city. And I have lots of fond memories going through areas of San Francisco. This is before I had Silicon Valley began to get built out like that. You go there now, and it's beginning to look like Johannesburg in areas with all of the homelessness and the defecation on the streets, etc. That's a mark of the parasites, these demonic parasitic beings expressing more and more publicly. And I don't think that's an inaccurate way of saying it. Demons are parasites. They need to feed off of your life, your wealth, your health, your mind. And so we have to attack these parasitic organisms in the country. In certain locations like organs, certain cities are getting attacked more directly, more heavily. And it's the same in the physical body as it is in the spiritual body, as it is in the societal body. Our nation state, our body politic has this huge parasitic load, and San Francisco is one of those places where it's the most egregious. So we bring back morality. If you have a moral society, that's the basis for godliness, for health. And to the extent that you don't have that healthy moral society, then the parasites will bloom. The dis-ease becomes unfathomable, and we come against it. God does amazing moves where people expect it the least. And I think that while many prophesy the doom and gloom of San Francisco, there may be areas of it that do get somewhere under some divine judgment and taken out. There may be other areas where God's grace is so great in contrast to save the people, to protect the people, even in the midst of all of this. And I believe that's exactly the case, including in San Francisco. God hasn't given up on his people, and there is yet many righteous people in San Francisco who God will save the city because of.
Yes. Well, listen, Juan, thank you so much for coming on today. Where can people go if they want to purchase? I know that Jennifer Mack, your wife, has, you know, a store that do you still have the coins and Kid by the Side of the Road? What can they get at the site there, Juan?
Yeah, thejennifermack.com. And she's got fun stuff over there.
Yeah, the jennifermack.com. You can see the links below, as well as if you want to come to Open the Heavens, Keys to the Golden Gate, you can click on the links below. It'll go to my website, MeriCrowley.com. So anyway, God bless you. Thank you for coming on, Juan. Thanks for watching. Please share this. Please subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. And please, you know, make comments, because it does change the algorithms. We've been taken off YouTube, a number of things, so much just because of fighting for the children and really making the voice heard against child sex trafficking in America. So God bless you guys. I hope to see you in San Francisco, or at least watching it via streaming. The best is yet to come. See you soon. Thanks for watching.